Hello there and welcome to Breakfast All Day. How's it going, guys? Good to see you. I'm Christy. That is Alonso. There's Matt. We're all here. We got a biggie for you this week. It is the Suicide Squad. And those of you who are watching our YouTube channel,
I have a very special mug, a shark.
It's a shark with a straw sticking out of its nose.
Well, yes, because otherwise you have to try and drink through the mouth, and it looks like you're like.
What's your beverage of choice today in the shark mug, Matt?
If I were to say rum, everyone would accuse me of being an alcoholic, so I will say water.
Is that true?
I don't know. Is it?
Aren't you hydrating in the San Fernando Valley heat?
Yes, I would hope. I am.
Could be. Anyway, Matt, if you're not too shit-faced, please describe the Suicide Squad for us.
Okay, so the Suicide Squad is maybe a reboot, maybe a sequel. It's pretty much its own movie with some of the same characters that we saw in the 2016 Suicide Squad without the who would be awesome if the music was by the.
Oh, sure.
Anyway, so we get a few returning people, most notably Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. Jai Courtney shows up as Captain Boomerang. Viola Davis returns as Amanda Waller, and she is in charge of this program, Task Force X, where she takes convicted supervillains and sends them on Black Ops missions. And should they survive, they get about 10 years off whatever sentence they're under. And if they die, she doesn't really care. And if they decide that they're going to not follow orders or not honor their deal, to go rogue, the bomb that was implanted in their heads, she will set off and blow up their heads. And the movie starts off, we meet a character called Savant, played by Michael Rooker, who gets this whole lowdown in about 5 minutes. So if you never saw the Suicide Squad and you're coming into this cold, that first 5 minutes tells you all you need to know.
Right? I mean, if you never saw a Suicide Squad.
Right, sorry. Or any of the trailers or anything, right? Like, it's basically a Dirty Dozen type story, right? Convicts go on a mission that unlikely to survive. You got a great cast here. You've got Idris Elba as a character named Bloodsport, who's very close to the character that Will Smith played in the first in Suicide Squad. John Cena practically steals the movie as a character named Peacemaker, who is the douchiest version of Captain America you could imagine. Like, he might as well be wearing a red hat. This is a make Captain America great again type character. And Cena sells it. He's very funny. There's a good rivalry between these two guys that shows up on film. They have good chemistry together because Idris Elba, I think not since Harrison Ford have we seen someone who's really good at just doing the world weary, like, okay, I'm going to go fight. This movie's super fun, and I think this is one of the best examples of what James Gunn can do, because he can balance a lot of characters, which is really tough to do. But every moment as he jumps around, first of all, you don't really lose track of what's going on, and second of all, every moment with these characters is pretty much germane to the overall story. Also, he gets to work with an R rating, which boy
howdy.
There is some gore in this. This is a gory, like, this would be a Vertigo comic if you were, and the comic nerds know what I'm talking about. Like, this is pretty unflinching. I'm hesitant. I'm really trying. I've got the note. People don't like when I spoil stuff. I'm really trying to tell you as little as possible, except that they go on a mission and you know who the characters are. There are big surprises. Like, what's great about Gunn is he takes some big swings and does stuff that you absolutely wouldn't expect, and it works. But what I'm most impressed with here is, yes, there's dirty jokes and very risque humor, and it's very gory, and it's got this really dark comic sensibility, but there's real, like, legit emotion there, right? Like, there's a scene where Harley is so emotionally touched that you just don't expect at all. And Margot Robbie really sells that. Kind of the rescue scene is really well done. And then David, what is it? It's Dastmalchian, who is playing one of the worst comic book characters ever written. Polka-Dot Man. Polka-Dot Man, as I write in my review on Movie Phone, belongs with, say, the Clock King or
Condiment
Crazy
Man.
Quilt or Condiment King in
Condiment King? What's Condiment King?
He's in the Batman Lego movie.
He was on the Batman animated show. He shoots mustard and ketchup and condiments.
But the reason the Polka-Dot Man is Polka-Dot Man is very sad. Like they
well, so that's what they do. So that's what they do in the movie. See, in the comic books, he just decides like, hey, I'm going to do bad stuff and I'm going to use polka dots to do it. Like it's super shitty, right? Like it's super terrible, like 60s, 70s era villain like it's just awful. This one, between what Gunn does writing wise and what Dastmalchian does acting wise, God love him. They managed to walk this line between you're still laughing at how dopey the character is, but there's real like pathos there. There's real kind of, he becomes this tragic figure, and Gunn is really good at blending that all over this film. And I think this is one of the best things Gunn's ever done.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, well, it's so much of what we love about the Guardians movies, but as Matt mentioned, this is extremely R, right? And so it is lively and it is weird. And it's also about an unexpected family that comes together. That's like this ragtag band. And, you know, they're all going to bond by the end, but they're all so well drawn and so distinct. And the way that comes about feels so natural that you can't help be won over. Although the circumstances through which they must ultimately all fight together is so extraordinary and outlandish and over the top. And like, I'm not going to say it because I want, as Matt said, we want to leave as much here for folks to enjoy. But it's tough. And he does hear what he does in Guardians is that he finds moments for all of them to shine individually or have a nice bonding moment with one or two characters. I want to mention Daniela Melchior, who is Ratcatcher 2. And her power is ridiculous. Like these are all actual DC people, right? These are all like characters from the comics. That they exist in the first place is nuts. And now that there's a movie about them is nuts. And then you have actors taking it seriously and like bringing depth and like shading to the.
There's a couple that were made up for the like. Nathan Fillion's character TDK is new to the movie. He's
not a real guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's new for the movie. But it
is Weasel real?
Weasel is a previous character, but not quite. Like it was a dude that just like that was his nickname. That they called him Weasel, and so he started being.
Weasel is Sean Gunn. Weasel is Sean Gunn, right? Guys, which I love. It's
and looks like Bill the Cat for people who remember Bloom County.
Yeah. So it's funny. I was gonna possibly bring Nick with me to see this because he has seen so much with me and he saw the Snyder Cut and I thought he'd be fine with this. And the publicist was like, it's like a couple of steps above Birds of Prey. And then when I saw it, I brought our friend Brian O'Bear with me, our friend from Silver Sun Pickups, who's been on a la carte. And I watched it and the violence is so cartoonish, like people's like the top of their scalp getting sliced and like sliding diagonally off the rest of their head. It's people exploding, like entirely exploding, faces exploding. It's so over the top that I thought, oh, this is so cartoonish that I don't think Nick will have a problem with it. There is a sex scene. I mean, again, that's also over the top.
Yeah,
okay,
so
this movie is similar, I think, to our sensibilities now to what RoboCop was at the time, where it is right. Like, there's one character that gets shot in the face, and you get more than a few frames of that. This is gory, right? And yes, it's cartoony, but it's gory.
It is.
Yeah.
I was surprised that it's like surprisingly moving by the end, given how gory it is, given how wild it is. Also, this is a James Gunn movie, so lots of needle drops, but they are in inspired. The use of "Hey" by the Pixies was quite lovely. In
the use of Jim Carroll Band.
Yes.
Yeah, that was funny.
No,
It's totally on the nose, but it's so fucking funny. I love it.
There were so many moments where I felt like this movie. I mean, first of all, yes, on a James Gunn level, it's terrific, and it's totally his wheelhouse. Like, I didn't love Super, but I think this allows him to marry the sort of darker R-rated elements of Super and that kind of commentary about the queasiness of costumed strong people, running around doing whatever they want, into a thing that it's the happy ground between Guardians and Super, I think.
I think this is closer to, like, on the spectrum of his stuff, I think this is actually closer to Super and Slither than it is to Guardians.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
But at the same time, I think they learned so much from what didn't work in the previous one, which, as David Ayer will be the first to tell you, is Warner Brothers' fault and not the version that he wanted to release. So, like, the needle drops here are less frequent and they're better chosen. The exposition is a lot smarter. Like, that first movie, it introduced so many fucking characters in this cavalcade, it becomes a joke. And here it's like, we just throw a bunch of them out there and maybe you'll figure out who they are along the way, maybe you won't. And it's like, it's not like Viola Davis having to do pages and pages and pages of introduction while eating a steak. Well,
and I think that's super smart, right? Because one of the things he has Waller do to Michael Rooker's character is like, yeah, you're going with a team of other people, and he says, what's the mission? She's like, you'll know when you get there. And she very much puts upon him that it's this need to know basis, and that kind of, the movie kind of takes that to heart, in that certain characters will get descriptions about other characters.
We didn't need to know so much last time.
Well, right. Or, one of the characters like, that's the same way you described me, right? It's
that was a good
right,
bit.
with like 2 sentences. So this is a movie that figures you're not stupid, and these aren't, like, you never need to really know where anyone's powers came from.
Sure. I think along the way there are maybe a few valleys where it just can't keep up the energy, and, like, obviously you need to give the audience breathing room. But there were moments where I was like, okay, let's get to the next thing, because there's so many things in this movie, and when the things happen, it's really exciting. But between them, there were times that I felt like it maybe lost a little bit of momentum along the way. But overall, I had a blast with this movie. I thought it was really terrific.
And stay really all the way in small ways. Oh, you stay all the way through, for sure. Yes.
All the way, all the way through the credits.
All the way. We should wrap
we
up,
haven't mentioned Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, right, he's King Shark. That was a good bit.
He's the Groot of this movie, and he's hilarious.
He is Groot, and he has a lot of fun with it. And it's sort of playing with his own persona through the Shark character, for sure. But even, like, in all the supporting roles, like, great care was taken. Like, Steve Agee is really good as one of the guys in the control room watching the mission, go down. As is, I want to say, it's Tinashe Kajise. Is that how you say her name? She is the young Black woman who is in the control room.
Okay, yeah, she is good.
And she has a couple of choice moments there. But just, like, top to bottom, like, there's just a lot of care taken with small things in what is a giant movie, and that kind of sets us apart from, I think, a lot of the other stuff. And it balances, like, intensity with lightness in a way that not a lot of DC movies do.
Oh, for sure.
They're either totally dark and heavy, or they are
Shazam.
playful, and they're Shazam, right? And this does both.
Yeah.
This has gravitas, but I also laughed a lot. So
I think that, obviously at some point we'll get tired of this too, but I think that the R-rated superhero movie, as we're getting here, and then from the 2 Deadpools, is representing at least a little bit of a, let's switch this up a little, let's approach this material in a different way, and we don't have to be tethered to the whole, like, family entertainment thing. And again, like I said, yes, we'll see enough of these where we'll get sick of them, but for now it feels new and fresh. Without spoiling anything, I will say, as a longtime DC reader, they finally bring in the big bad that I've wanted to see in a movie.
Yeah,
that's a favorite.
Yeah, and if you've watched the trailer, you know who it is. I'm not going to mention it, but it's unexpected, and that's another one that's like, there's maybe a little tragedy there. I will say there was one particular scene that, and you can't help but think about this when you're watching any of the expanded universe movies, both Marvel and DC. But since this is DC, like, as we get to our big major fight, our big climactic battle scene, I'm like, the fuck is Superman right now? Like,
and one last thing I'll throw in also is that I think there's a political subtext here that I think the Zack Snyders of the DC universe would never have gotten within 10 feet of, and that Gunn weaves through in a really smart way.
I agree. And Joel Kinnaman's good in what is essentially like a straight man role while everyone's crazy around him. He's like the solid center core in what could be a boring role. I'm saying 8.3.
7.8.
I'm giving it a 9.
Great. 8.4 is our number. The Suicide Squad is in theaters. If you feel comfortable doing that, it's a great big screen experience. It's super fun. If not, it's on HBO Max.
For the next 30 days? Is that how that works?
Something like that.
Something like that. So yeah, don't sleep on that one. It'll be gone before you know it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on social media at BeFastAllDay, and visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. In the final hours of taking votes for what our August off the menu will be, which of the 6 different beach movies will we be reviewing for the first time, and of course we're recapping the wonderful season 2 of Ted Lasso. So you don't want to miss any of that. Patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.